A gentle wind moved through the grass on the hills of Judea. The sun slowly rose above the land, lighting the pastures where a young shepherd named David was watching over his father's sheep. David was the youngest in his family. His brothers were strong warriors who served in the army of King Saul. But David stayed at home, caring for the sheep and playing his harp. Every evening when the sun disappeared behind the hills, David would sit on a stone and look up at the stars. He quietly played music and thanked God for life. But one day, everything changed. On the border of Israel, the army of the Philistines had gathered. Their army was huge and well-armed. They had come to fight the Israelites. The two armies stood on opposite hills facing each other. Between them was a wide valley. Every morning, a giant warrior walked out from the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath. He was enormous. His height was nearly 3 meters. He wore heavy armor, a shining helmet, and carried a massive spear that an ordinary man could barely lift. Goliath walked into the valley and shouted loudly, "Why do you come out to line up for battle? Choose one man and send him down to fight me. If he defeats me, we will become your servants. But if I defeat him, you will serve us." His voice echoed across the valley like thunder. The Israelite soldiers were afraid. No one dared to fight the giant. For 40 days this continued. 40 days Goliath came out and mocked the army of Israel. One day, David's father said to him, "David, take this bread and grain to your brothers in the army camp. Go see how they are doing." David set off early in the morning. When he arrived at the camp, he heard the noise of the army preparing for battle. And then Goliath appeared again. He walked into the valley and once again began mocking the Israelites. David was surprised. "Who is this man who dares to insult the army of the living God?" he asked the soldiers. They answered him, "That is Goliath. No one can defeat him. He is too strong." But David said, "Do not be afraid of him. The Lord will protect us." When King Saul heard about David's words, he ordered that the young shepherd be brought to him. David stood before the king. Saul looked at him and said, "You are only a boy. You cannot fight this giant." But calmly, David replied, "When I was taking care of my father's sheep, a lion or a bear would sometimes come and carry away a lamb. I chased the animal and rescued the sheep. The Lord who saved me from the lion and the bear will also save me from this giant." King Saul thought for a moment. Then he said, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." He gave David his armor and his sword. David tried to walk in them, but he stopped. "I cannot move in this armor," David said. "I am not used to it." So he took it off. Instead, David took his shepherd's bag, his sling, and walked toward a nearby stream. He picked up 5 smooth stones and placed them into his bag. Then he went to face the giant. When Goliath saw David, he laughed loudly. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" he shouted. "You send a boy to fight me?" Then he said with contempt, "Come here, and I will give your body to the birds of the sky." But David answered with a strong voice, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel." Both armies stood still. The entire valley fell silent. Goliath began walking forward. The heavy steps of the giant echoed across the ground. But David ran toward him. He took a stone from his bag, placed it in his sling, and spun it quickly. Whoosh! The stone flew through the air across the valley. It struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant stopped. His eyes widened, and suddenly he fell face down to the ground. The impact echoed through the valley. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the Israelites shouted with joy. The Philistines ran away in fear. The Israelites chased them and won the battle. And so a young shepherd defeated a giant. But it was not a victory of strength. It was a victory of faith. From that day forward, the name of David became known throughout all Israel. People said, God can give victory even to the smallest person. Because true strength is not found in swords or armor. True strength is found in faith. And sometimes one small stone thrown with faith can change the course of history.